Good evening, students.
Yeah, good evening and welcome everybody. Welcome to all educators here. And guys, today we are going to do for the UPSC CSE Prelims the trend analysis of last 15 years. It will be a comprehensive analysis, and we will try to see every subject, whatever were there, and the type of question, the question pattern which has come, the cutoff, the vacancies, and the subject-wise trend. We'll also like to talk a bit about 2025, the cutoff, what it was there. And along with that, we will also see the coming up pattern, the syllabus, the books, the resources that you should refer. Today, we have with ourselves Deepika ma'am, the founder and the chief mentor of Shikara Academy. She will be talking about polity and along with polity, various other subjects. We also have with ourselves Dinesh sir, who will be talking about geography. We have Chaman sir talking about science and tech. We have Rani ma'am. She'll be taking questions from economy. I myself, Pratyush Tiwari, I'll be taking questions from history. Now I'd like Deepika ma'am to take over. Ma'am, please.
Good evening, students. Basically, the idea behind this session is we want to give you a comprehensive picture of how UPSC paper has been changing since 2011 to 2025. So, by the end of this video, you should be in a position to understand where UPSC is heading and how you should turn your preparation according to the changes that are happening in the syllabus. Okay, in the exam pattern. To begin with, this is the subject-wise weightage of all the questions, of the questions that were asked from 2011 to 2025. The biggest take from this particular slide is, if you notice, there is no set pattern that UPSC follows. UPSC never has a set pattern. Before 2010, what was happening is, surely from each subject, for example, history, polity, economy, geography, we knew that you'll get 10 questions, 15 questions. So the trend of each paper was similar. If you read polity well, you'll be able to answer 10 questions. This was the mindset with which we prepared because I gave my attempt then. But from 2011 onwards, it's not like that. 1 year, if you notice in polity, 1 year you had 23 questions, but there were years where you had only 11 questions. So whether how many questions you'll get from each area is not fixed, which means that you cannot leave any area uncovered. Anything can be asked, anything that is in your syllabus, in your main syllabus, has to be covered because anything can be asked. No, notice this. IR for 3 consecutive years, there were no questions. So what happens usually is, since there were no questions, students don't prepare well on IR in prelims. Again, the next 2 years, the questions shot up 9, 11. So this is how it is going to be. The take from this slide is, please do not neglect any area in your syllabus. Every area is important for prelims. Now moving forward, this is subject-wise categorization. The same in a map that in a bar diagram we have given. Now, coming to the pattern of questions, UPSC also does not have a set pattern of questions. This I will ask Chaman to explain because he'll also give you examples for this.
Okay, yeah, good evening, everyone. So, over the past years, especially after the COVID cycle, 2020, we have seen that UPSC has just diverged from the traditional way it has asked questions. Firstly, they emphasize more on direct questions or the two statement questions and the three statement questions. And the elimination method was like predominantly used in solving those questions. If we cannot, if we were not able to derive at the final answer, we would easily been able to eliminate one or two statements with the knowledge that we had. But over the past years, like for 4 or 5 years, what we have observed is like UPSC, they have started to ask the direct question, they are decreasing in the quantity. So we can see the direct question in 2021, there were 40 questions and progressively the direct questions. And when I say the direct questions are those which has direct options like A, B, C, D. You have to read In such a question, you have to read little small number of words, but these are one of the most trickiest questions. If you know the answer, very good, but you can't eliminate, you can't effectively use elimination method. So the two statement questions in which UPSC asks two statements and give options like, okay, so just let me share my screen. I would say.
See, basically, the reason why you have to understand the pattern of questioning is you should be prepared. Usually, what happens is in a direct question, most of the times it seems simple, but it'll be conceptual. Trying to understand the question and answering, figuring out the answer becomes difficult. The second reason why you have to understand the pattern of question is you have to understand what level of difficulty UPSC is taking. Elimination method is gradually being replaced with one is correct, two is correct, three is correct, four is correct. So such questions make it extremely difficult for you to even do any guesswork. And don't forget there is negative marking. So it limits your guesswork in the paper basically, because if three statements are given, unless you have a knowledge of all the three statements, you'll not be able to mark the right answer. Yes.
Okay, so
Chaman?
yeah, so I've shared my screen. So these were the direct questions. You will be asked A, B, C, D. You have to choose the right answer. So if we take example of such questions, this was an example of such a question, that what was the exact constitutional status of India as on 26 January 1950? A plain quality based question. It is it has come from a static area and you have to know the answer. So it was a sovereign democratic republic at the time when the constitution was in place. So this was the example of direct question. Just you have to know the point and then you can straight away come at the answer. Then there are two statement questions. You are given two statements, statement one, statement two, and you are asked that whether statement one is correct, only statement two is correct, and both statements are correct or neither of the statement is correct. So these are one of the UPSC, what it does is 10 to 15% of the questions every year. It has come from this particular type of question. Exception being the year of 2023, when UPSC has suddenly thrown a surprise at every aspirant's face. We'll be discussing it in bit of detail now. Then in the past 2 or 3 years, what UPSC has started done is like they give two statements. They give statement one, statement two. But it doesn't ask whether the statement one is correct or whether the statement two is correct. It goes a step forward and then it asks whether the statement two is giving the correct explanation to statement one. So taking a look at the examples of both these type of questions, then we had this question in 2023 prelims. So UPSC asked, in India, the biodiversity management committees are key to the realization of the objective. So we are given two statements. Statement one is here, statement two is here. And we are simply asked which of them are correct. So we know that in India, biodiversity management committee are key to realization of objectives, and they have important functions in determining access. So we know that this particular one statement gets wrong. So in these questions, what happens is like even if you know one statement, you are able to eliminate two options in the examination. And if you know the second statement is correct, then you can easily arrive at the answer. So the level of difficulty, I would say these questions were of a moderate level difficulty. If you are able to eliminate one, so your chances become 50-50. On the other hand, the new type of questions that UPSC has, it has started asking this question in 2021. In 2021, it has just asked a single question in this form. And after 2023, UPSC has upped the ante for this type of questions. So 2023 paper was filled up with questions like these. So two statements are given, and now which we have to read that which of the following is correct in respect to the above statements. Please note that they are not asking whether the statements are correct or not. They are asking whether the things written in respect to the statements are correct or not. So we know that first option will be both statement one and two are correct. So we have to know that whether the statements are correct or not, and whether the second statement is being applied or is explaining the statement one. So in this particular statement, if we know that the statement two is incorrect, so then we can arrive at our answer that statement one is correct, but statement two is not correct. But had the statement two be also correct, then what could have been done? Like, then we have to ponder whether the statement 2 is correctly explaining statement 1. Coming to the next type of questions, we are asked the 3 statement questions. In UPSC gives 1, 2, 3 statements, and we are asked to whether which of the statements above is or are correct. So the elimination method worked wonders in these type of questions. So what happens is, like, if you eliminate even one, so many of times what happens is, like, all the 3 options containing the negative statement, the incorrect statement, they get eliminated and you arrive at the answer. But as we can see that UPSC has in 2023 has not asked a single question of this type. Instead, they have started to asking how many of the 3 statements given are correct. So the elimination method, they try to just kill the elimination method, which a lot of aspirants depend on in the prelims examination. So taking a look, but the over the past 2 years, we can see hopefully these 3 statement or elimination based technique questions, they are seeing a resurgence. And in 2024, we have 19 questions. This year, UPSC asked some more, 23% questions. Taking an example, so this is our example. Consider the following statements. Other than those made by humans, nanoparticles do not exist in nature. So any aspirant having a basic knowledge of nanoparticles or the nanotechnology, they know that this statement is incorrect. So making this statement incorrect automatically eliminates 2 of the given options. Now we are only left with 2, and we know that the statement 3 becomes automatically correct. We do not have to ponder on it. So now we know that nanoparticles of some metallic oxides are used to manufacture in some cosmetics. So yeah, we know that this statement becomes correct because in science and technology, we have to have a very strong point, a very negative, very high potency negative point in order to discard an application of something. So nanoparticles application is nanoparticles are used in cosmetics. So we are not able to eliminate this statement. So both 2 and 3 will be correct. Now, starting from 2023, what the UPSC has done is, like, they have asked how many of the above statements are correct. So in this statement, in this question, they have asked recently all countries of the UN has adopted the first ever compact on international migration. The objectives and commitments stated in the GCM are binding on all member countries. The GCM addresses internal migration or internally displaced people also in its objectives and commitments. So if we eliminate one of these statements, we know that one of the statement is incorrect. Then also we cannot eliminate our options here. We have to have a knowledge of all the 3 statements in this particular question to arrive at our final answer, and this it will be D null. Now, UPSC gave a trailer or glimpse of the type of questions that they will be asking in this year's examination, and they have up to the ante. So last year in 2024, they have given 1 3 statement question and has asked whether the statement 2 or 3, the statement 2 or 3 is explaining the statement 1. Just like in the 2 statement question, they have upped the ante and they have asked whether the statement 2 and 3 are explaining the statement 1 or not. So last year they gave us a glimpse of this type of question. So a serious aspirant must have prepared, must have practiced these type of questions, because you have to read a lot in these type of questions. You are given 3 statements, then you are given 4 long statements in options, and you have to you have to read a full paragraph in order to arrive at the answer. And this year UPSC has asked 10% questions like this only. Yeah. So here UPSC has asked, so they have given statement 1, they have given statement 2, they have given the statement 3. And now they are asking which one of the following is correct in respect to the above statements. They are not asking how many of the statements are correct and which of these statements are correct. They are just saying that both statement 2 and 3 are correct. But one point to note in these type of statement, in these type of questions, is that the statement 1 will always be correct. This will be our pole marker that we have to gauge our other options based on that statement 1. So both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct. Both statement 2 and 3 are correct, but only one of them explains and both of them explain. So we have to know whether one of it is explaining the statement 1 or the both of them are explaining the statement 1. Now we are given options like only one of the statement 2 and is correct. That explains statement 1 and neither statement 2 or 3 is correct. So we have to know whether the statement 2 and 3 are correct and whether one of them is explaining statement 1 or none of them is explaining statement 1. So in this particular answer, we know that both the statement 2 and 3 are correct and both of them are explaining statement 1. We have covered this question in our 2025 prelims discussion as well. Moving on to the next type of questions, the multi-statement questions. So multi-statement questions are any of the questions in which you are given more than 3 statements or keywords or entities in the answer, and you are asked which of the above are correct. So sometimes what UPSC does is like it gives more than one statement, more than 3 statements. So this particular question was asked in prelims 2024. Highly current affairs based question because it is based on exercise Mitra Shakti. One of the trend that we can also see over the past 2 or 3 years is that UPSC started asking about the sports based question, mostly in which India excels, and they have started to ask military or defense based questions as well. So in 2024 they have asked about this Mitra Shakti exercise, and they have also asked about the ranks of the Indian Armed Forces. So in this question, we are given 4 statements. The question might be looking very big, but it is very easy. We have to just know the point that this was a joint military exercise between India and Sri Lanka. Just knowing this point, we can easily eliminate first 3 options and can arrive at the answers. These questions might look intimidating, but they are the most easiest to solve. When in the successive slides, we'll discuss the amount of easy, moderate, and difficult question UPSC asks. This is an example of an easier question. Now, what they have done is they've started this asking how many trend type of questions in 2022. In 2022 prelims, they have asked 8 such questions. How many of the above matching pairs are correct and how many of the above statements are correct? They gave a glimpse in the 2022 paper and has in 2023 has hit the ball out of the park on these type of questions, but they are moderating in 2024 and 25. So let's take an example. This year they have asked one such question. Consider following countries. So they have this, it's a static question, static geography based question. You have to know in which of the countries Andes mountains they pass through. So even if we know 1 or 2, we cannot eliminate the answers here. So we know that the Brazil is not there. Andes mountain, if we look at the map of South America, Andes mountain, they lie somewhere here and Brazil lies here. So had in the previous year UPSC had given us options, not in the form of how many, but in which, so we could have eliminated all these options that had Brazil in it. But currently we cannot. So we know that currently only 4 of these countries, Venezuela, Ecuador, Bolivia, and Colombia. We have to know all 4 countries, like all the countries on which Andes mountains are passed. Then only we can arrive at the correct answer. Yes, ma'am. So you can take after it.
See, basically, from this analysis, you have to understand that the level of difficulty in the question is increasing. Primarily, UPSC wants a student to be very well aware. They want them to be holistic in their preparation, not leaving any detail. So whenever you're reading a topic, superficial reading will not help. In-depth knowledge of that particular topic, for example, simple things like what, when, why, where, how, and what would be the outcome of this kind of approach is important. Tiwari ji, you're ready with history?
Yeah, ma'am, I am ready. And yes, that was the compilation that you saw from Chaman sir, and very beautifully explained that what actually is the pattern and the type of question that is coming. And right now, I will try to show you the questions exclusively from ancient, medieval, and art and culture. Uh, is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. So, guys, if you can see the syllabus, when they prescribe the syllabus for your prelims examination, obviously it's not going to be in detail. And if you are going to follow any syllabus whatsoever, the syllabus always has to be taken from the mains. Okay, that is how you can follow it. But otherwise, you cannot do anything for the syllabus. But the textbook references that you should have, we always say that NCRTs are the way to go. You have to follow the NCRTs, and there is a lot of confusion when it comes to history. Okay, we should follow the old NCRTs or the new NCRTs, and here I will also like my other educators to candidly be a part of it. So just to get an answer for whether we should follow the old NCRTs or the new NCRTs, I'd like to ask Deepika ma'am, what do you think about it?
Frankly, from my opinion, is old NCRTs are more organized when it comes to history, because it is enough in a proper sequence and flow. New NCRTs are theme based. Theme based में क्या होता है? Topics are taken from different eras of history. So for a newcomer, I personally feel that reading a new NCRT might be a little difficult and follow. But otherwise, you are a subject expert. You should be commenting on
Well,
it.
thank you, ma'am. I am a subject expert, but that was coming from an educator having experience of 20 plus years. Okay. She is a mentor of ours also. So, what she is saying, you should not take that lightly. And even I consider that, because when you see the old NCRTs, you will see R.S. Sharma's book in old NCRT that is dedicated for ancient India. Okay. You are not going to get any supplement for that. And basically consider one thing, whether people are talking about the spectrum or they are talking about any supplementary book, everything is firstly taken from the NCRTs. Okay, so NCRT is the base. Okay, along with that, for the current affairs, always the Hindu and the
I would
Indian.
like to add one more point here, Tiwari
Yeah,
ji.
ma'am. Yeah, ma'am.
History is all about sequence of events. It is a
Yeah,
chronology of events.
true.
Unless you have the chronology in your mind, reading history is very difficult, because what happens is you'll not understand what is coming from where and why it is coming. Once you start linking up the events, everything is cause and effect. You read the whole of history, it is cause and effect. So if you are that chronology, you can get only from the old editions. New editions will not give you the chronology. Even if you see the index, it is more than enough for the chronology.
That is
Sorry
one
for
more
interrupting.
reason,
Just
guys,
wanted to
that
add.
was given by Deepika ma'am. One more reason for you. Obviously, if you don't know from where it is starting, okay, if you're not understanding the chronology, it's not going to be possible for you to tackle the questions. And forget about tackling the questions, you're not going to get the context of it. Nonetheless, we'll just see the topics of ancient, medieval, and art and culture. Again, guys, this is very well compiled by our own Chaman sir. But guys, if you see the questions, if you're going to see here, you'll see Buddhism and Jainism, along with Buddhism, Jainism literature, and miscellaneous questions. Miscellaneous have to be in the higher side, guys, because if there will be a fixed pattern, so obviously you're going to ace it. And there is always a surprise element in UPSC's prelims examination. So that is why you see miscellaneous are having high weightage here. But along with that, you see Buddhism, Jainism, and literature questions. And with that, if you see a few topics which are always going to give you some or more average amount of questions, that is Mauryas, the Guptas, the Vijayanagar Empire, that's very important. In mains also you're going to get the questions. And forget not, we are going to do the mains analysis also very soon, so that will be very helpful for you. And the places you see, the architecture, you see architecture especially for art and culture. So from here, if you want to take anything, guys, I'll say, don't think that if a question has been asked, just two questions or four questions have been asked from early medieval kingdom, So it will not be asked in coming days. As ma'am has said, as even it was pointed out by Chaman sir, you have to be comprehensive. That is very much required. Now let's just see the questions. Okay. First and foremost, mostly if medieval India questions you will see, there will be factual questions. Like this question, if you see, it was asked in 2024 prelims, who gave permission to Portuguese to build a fort at Bhatkal? Now, understand one thing. This is not skimming through. You're not going to get it in the notes. You have to go deep for it. Okay. So it's not asking just when the Portuguese came or the Portuguese had the first settlement or the Portuguese built the first factory. It's not asking that. It's going more detail in it and asking who gave the permission for the fort at Bhatkal. Okay, you have the answer here, but you can see that by pausing the video. But most important point here is it was asked by History of Medieval India by Satish Chandra, and I am referring to the old NCRTs that right now ma'am also pointed out. So that is very important. Next, see the second question that we are seeing again from medieval history. It was asked in 2022, terminology based question. It's asking about a term that is phantom. Now, if you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. For the wild guesses, I am not talking about here, and I'm not a person who believes in wild guesses. Until and unless you are just doing 30 or 40% right and you have to do it, then you have to take the chances. Otherwise, again, guys, this sort of terminologies will be asked from medieval India, especially. You'll have this from art and culture also. The source again is NCRT class 12 medieval India. The next question, art and culture, factual type question, Kalyan Mandapa. Okay. Now, Kalyan Mandapa, when you are going to see, it's related to Vijayanagar. And again, you are going to see this is not a common book. We're talking about an introduction to Indian art. Many students, many aspirants, they've tried to follow Nitin Singhania. And Nitin Singhania's book is very thick. And you also have to think in the perspective of return on investment. What is the ROI? Then introduction to Indian art can be, a very good supplement for that. But moving ahead with another question, ancient terms based question. This question was asked in the year 2011. Okay, and here it is talking about literary sources along with the Vedic civilization. So you will have the questions, and one thing I'll make you very sure, in this Valley civilization, IVC, and this Vedic period, it has a lot many questions coming up, and in future also you're going to get it. So here, if you see, they are talking about two terms here, dharma and rita. If you know about dharma and rita, you're going to answer it. Otherwise, it was not going to be possible. Next, IVC, in this Valley civilization, as I was talking about, you have multi-statement questions. Okay, like it was being already shown to you by Chaman sir. You are having this multi-statement question where they have given you three statements, and it is about the Indus Valley civilization. And you have to now, out of them, talk about whether one and two is correct, only two is correct, all of them are correct, or none of them are correct. So how you're going to come to the conclusion until and unless you know all about them, or if you can use the elimination method that we have talked in one of our YouTube videos, and that we'll be talking again when we'll get time. Next question, if you guys, it was asked in the year prelims 2012. The question is about the rock cut architecture and also talking about Badami caves. This question is related to, guys, art and culture as well as related to the ancient India. And the answer here that you can see, but what it is saying, that you cannot neglect any topic, any point. Don't be sure that this year a question was asked from Vijayanagar Empire, so next year whether it will be asked or not, so you're gonna get confirmed for it. Okay, this again a direct knowledge based question that we have from 2021, and here it is asking about the ancient town, okay, where you are having this water harvesting system. Okay, this was not a very hard one. Dholavira in Gujarat, it's very famous. If students knew about it, it was not going to be very difficult for them. Then the most lovable topic that I will say that UPSC has for history, as we also saw when we were seeing from 2011 to 2025, 15 plus questions have come from Buddhism and Jainism. Okay, so you see a question that was asked in 2013, and how it is asked, you don't get it directly. The painting of Bodhisattva Padmapani is one of the most famous. Bodhisattva, okay, what are these terminologies? Padmapani, somewhere or the other you must understand. Padma is talking about lotus. Okay, what are these terminologies? You have to understand, but it is related with Buddhism and Jainism. Now, along with that, let's see some of more the term-based question. It was asked in prelims 2014. Panchayatan. Now, if you know about Panchayatan, again, you know about this term, you are going to get it correct. If you don't know, there is no statement given about it, so you are not going to draw any inference from there. Okay, and with that we have come to the conclusion of ancient medieval art and culture. If I have to give a last closing comment for it, I'll say you have to go comprehensive. Go with the old NCRTs, get the chronologies correct, get the context and your clarity correct, and then that will be the way to go ahead. Now, let's see the modern history. Again, as I said you, they give you a very brief syllabus, Indian national movement. Now it's upon you whether you want to go beyond the Indian national movement. And why I'm saying beyond the Indian national movement, there are questions asked India after independence. So the books that we refer here, again, the NCRTs are going to be the way forward. Okay, and there is another book also that you can see. Along with that, guys, newspapers are very important. Again, I will say, because modern history nowadays, if there is something happening in current, they try to mix it up with that, and then you get the question. As it this year we got also got a question, okay, that was related to Peria. Now, let us see the weightage of the question that we can see here. Here again, if you'll see, guys, one which is clearly standing out is British Act and Policies. See, 15 questions, that huge number. But all the others, you see, the 8 is highest in Gandhian phase, otherwise 15 questions. Okay, so it shows what? That when they are saying the syllabus is Indian national movement, so the policies, the acts, what were given by the Britishers, that is very important for here to be considered. But along with that, never forget Gandhi is very important. The movements of Gandhi, Gandhi himself, there can be questions asked from Gandhi in South Africa. There will be questions asked through the non-cooperation movement, the Quit India movement, and all the other things. The personalities are also very important. We have got questions from there. Okay, but yes, again, Gandhian phase and the economic impact, mainly the policies, whatever were there during the British period, that has been the one. Along with that, guys, don't forget, if this is the trend, this can be a way forward for you, but don't get confirmed that this trend cannot change. This trend can change, and for that you have to always be ready. If UPSC is bringing surprises for you, you need to get ready for those surprises. Now 2024 we have this question, and guys, it's clearly written Indian national movement, and this question which is asked here, it is way beyond Indian national movement. Okay, they are talking about Bharatiya Jan Sangh. Today, if you know about BJP, Bharatiya Janata Party, you know, it's someday it was known as Bharatiya Jan Sangh. Okay, Socialist Party, Congress for Democracy, Swatantra, all this, guys, if you see, it is not before 1947, but then that's what we talk. We say that you always have to be ready. Okay, and the source again, guys, class 12 politics in India since independence. That's the book you're gonna refer. Again, it's an NCRT. Indian National Congress session questions. You have to be through. You have to be through with it. There is no second going for it. You can't escape it. Again, a chronology type question will be there, but you need to know. Okay, when did Surat split happen? When did Lucknow Pact happen? When did Lahore session happen? It's important for you. Now, along with, again, this is again asked from class 12 themes in Indian history 3. This is the new NCRT book. Indian Council Act 1909. Again, statement type questions we are seeing here. And here you have two statements, and you have to infer whether one is right, whether two is right, whether both are right. And these questions, again, guys, are from themes in Indian history 3. Okay. Next question, Cripps mission, a direct type of question. You must know about Cripps mission, and it was an easy question. You have the direct type questions. Most times you will have direct type of questions. Sometimes you will have it from modern history. Sometimes you will have from ancient medieval art and culture. Okay, and again, this question again has come from Indian history 3. Okay, you're seeing the different years it has been asked. This question asked in 2016 related to Indian National Army and Subhash Chandra Bose, and it's a multiple statement type question. Okay, for this only, even Chaman sir was saying that nowadays what they have done, they have started to give three statement, and even that also they have started to include the option in so very weird way that it takes a lot of time. Okay, you have not seen it yet in history. You have rather seen it in science. You have rather seen it in environment and others. But don't be very sure that you are not going to get it in history. Okay, so if you see here, guys, the question, it talks about the INA, it talks about Subhash Chandra Bose. That's very easy one if you would have read even a bit of it. And again, it is from NCERT class 10 and 12 books. One or two statement was from directly from class 10's book, and other was from class 12 book. Again, you should know about it. Multi statement based questions that we see, guys, it was asked in UPSC Prelims 2017 with reference to the revolt of 1857. Again, this is a very important that you should know about revolt of 1857. It forced the British government. Okay, it forced the British government to bring a change. The rule was handed over from the company to the Queen. Okay, so all this, it's something that you should know. 2017 it was asked, guys, and if you see, the answer is given here. Along with that, UPSC Prelims 2017, the question, the chronology based question, we see mutiny in Royal Indian Navy, Quit India movement, second round table conference. It is 1931, 1942. You have mutiny 1946. If you know, it is very easy. Okay, but you have this chronology type of question. We discussed very earlier with Deepika ma'am that this chronology type of questions can be solved by you if you know the chronology yourself. If you don't know the chronology, it's not going to help you. Now, pair matching based question, where they will give you the movement organization and they have given associated person. And now you have to see which of these pairs are right or wrong. See, I wanted to say you one more thing here. You see this self-respect movement, and you see Mr. Ramaswamy Naikar. It has come in the options, and this year 2025 it came as a question. So guys, this is a humble request from my side. If you see any option which is given, if All India Untouchability League is given, please know about it, that after the Pune Pact, All India Untouchability League was started. It can be asked. So go through thoroughly. The options also should be seen. That is very important if you are a serious aspirant. Nehru report, again a direct question asked in prelim 2017, and you can see the explanation here. The multi-statement based choosing question again. So you have three statements here, and you have to choose the right answer from it. Again, it was asked from INA and Subhash Chandra Bose. UPSC Prelims 2012. The question being asked from Swadeshi and boycott movement. Okay, and this was adopted as a protest against what? So anybody who has read the history will know that partition of Bengal 1905, and that some way or the other uh, gave the platform Swadeshi and boycott movement. Okay, just few more questions we'll see, and after that Deepika ma'am will start with the polity. Gandhi Irwin Pact, it's an important topic asked in year 2011, multi-statement based question. We have this dominion status being asked. We have this right to make salt for consumption for all Indians. So if you know that Gandhi Irwin Pact, when it happened because Indian National Congress was not participating in roundtable conference. Okay, the first roundtable conference, Indian National Congress was not there. Gandhi was not there. Okay, they wanted Gandhi to come there. That is why what they will give. They will not talk for the dominion status right now, but rather what was happening at that time, salt law, Dandi March. So they will give this. Okay, you make the salt, the release of political prisoners and not convicted for violence. Again, yes, this is true, not convicted for violence, because Bhagat Singh was not released, he was convicted for violence. Okay, sometimes people ask that Gandhi did not talk to Britishers. So guys, that was the end of it. And for modern history, again I will say to you that the way forward for modern history will be the NCRTs. Get the NCRTs done for both the medieval, the ancient, the art and culture, and modern history. We will provide you the notes. Okay, most of the questions that you have seen here, we have already discussed. Most of the questions that came in 2025, we have already done in our live batches. Okay, but you need to check it. You have to somewhere or the other go through it. But that's it from my side. I'll hand it over to Deepika ma'am. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Tiwari ji. Now, before I proceed further with Polity, I will request Chaman to actually take you through the cutoffs over the last 5-6 years, the number of vacancies and how the cutoff has been. Chaman?
So thank you, Tiwari sir. Thank you, ma'am. So let's resume our discussion on the types of questions. It was my bad. I just missed one type of question. Yes. So we have here the matching pairs type of questions. So this type of particular questions has been asked by UPSC over the past 10 and 15 years. But what they are doing is like earlier they used to ask which of the above pairs are correctly matched, but now they are have started asking how many of the above pairs are correct. So again, the scope of elimination gets reduced drastically. And one more thing, over the past 2 years, what they are doing is they are increasing the difficulty level, they're upping the ante, and they are asking to match the rows. So instead of two columns that we have to match, now we have three columns that we have to match. Now match the rows. So let's take one of the examples of these type of questions. So this current affairs based IR question was asked in 2022, the year in which UPSC has started asking this how many type of questions. So in this, we are given four countries and what was the important reason why they were in use. So current affairs, as usual, is of the prime importance. So we know that the first statement has been incorrectly matched here. So, but we cannot eliminate any of the other options. We can just say we can eliminate like this key. Okay, option D, all four pairs are not correctly matched, but we still are given with three pairs that we need to know. So if we know that all the three are correctly matched, then we can arrive at the answer, okay, only three pairs are correct. So the level of difficulty has increased. But what happens in these sort of questions now? There is the element of luck has increased. I would say the element of luck has increased. So suppose you are an aspirant and you have marked the first statement as correct, even though it is incorrect, but you have marked it correct, and you have marked the statement 4 that is correct, and you have marked it incorrect. And for statement 2 and 3, you know the right answer is the statements are correct. Even in this case, you will mark C only three pairs at the right answer. But fundamentally, your knowledge gap is there, and you have corrected this question by out of sheer luck that only three pairs are correct. Your knowledge gap was evident, but you still managed to do so because of your luck. So the paper is getting very, I would say, it's hard to tell whether it's very vague. I would say the paper has become very vague. The statements they are making vague, the options they are giving are vague. So it is important to just attempt all the questions correctly in the examination. Now, coming to the most draconian questions, I think the UPSC has been asking. You have to match not even the pairs, you have to match the rows and have to tell how many of the rows are correct. So the element of how many and the third element of row. So this year they have asked, last year 2024 they have asked similar question. It was a bit relatively easy, I would say, as compared to this, because they have asked the armed forces ranks, but a lot of students of civil service preparation, lot of candidates, lot of aspirants are unaware of the ranks in the Indian Armed Forces. The candidates appearing for the ND and the CDS exam, they might be knowing this stuff, but the UPSC, CSE candidates, they don't know the rank structure in the armed forces very well, and even the CAPF structure very well. So in this particular state, we are given three organizations that are in news frequently, and what functions do they perform, and in which ministry or in which department they function under. So, Director of Enforcement, the Enforcement Directorate (ED) has been thoroughly in news. So, at least one must expect that a student or an aspirant, a serious aspirant, must be knowing this. So we know that it doesn't come under Ministry of Home Affairs. It comes under Ministry of Finance. So and other two pairs, other two, I would say, the rows are correctly matched. So here the answer will be only two, but these are, you need to know the 9 different facts or points in order to arrive at this answer. So the knowledge gap, the knowledge that you need to gain has, UPSC has asked you to increase your knowledge base.
Chaman sir, it can be said it's not general awareness, it's specific knowledge that you got to.
Yeah, very specific. They have to now what they expect to be, okay, we read in the newspaper that some department is taking some action. Now we have to go to that department's website, see the mandate under the different acts that department has been given the mandate, and the parent body that has been, and the cadre controlling body it is under. So UPSC has definitely upped the ante in the 4-5 years, in the past 4-5 years. And the cutoff says this, so we'll be discussing the cutoff after this. So this is a very general analysis of the difficulty level of questions UPSC has been asking over the past 15 years since the pattern has changed. So we can see more or less the amount of easy question and the amount of difficult questions asked by the UPSC, it remains the same. Easy, I would say, if an aspirant has read the NCRT and has done some scattered amount of current affairs, then he or she should be able to mark all these 28, 25 or 30 questions, the easier questions correct. With a bit more depth to their understanding, the 40% to 40 to 45% of the questions are asked are medium based. So they must be partially or fully knowing this stuff. They should have eliminated two statements in these type of questions. And the difficult questions, the 30% questions, and out of these difficult, there's a category of around 5%, 5 to 8% questions are of extreme difficulty. And these extreme difficulty questions, like a student and aspirant should, if they know the correct answer for sure, then they should attempt. Otherwise, these questions should not be touched on the day of examination.
So, Chaman sir, you want to say that if aspirant does the easy and the medium questions, he is not required to do the difficult one?
Absolutely. But he or she should have a thorough confidence and command over the easy and medium questions. But what so happens is that in exam conditions, we cannot segregate whether this particular question is easy, medium, or difficult. So these are very subjective things, and a particular student might have certain strong areas, some other might have some certain weak areas. So, and very easy art and culture question might become very difficult for an aspirant who has not read the art and culture at all.
True, sir.
But even though if they have just read the NCRT of art and culture, Introduction to Indian Art, and out of that a particular question comes, then we can say, okay, it is in the easier category. So I would say it's a 30, 40, 30 ratio. If you are doing 30, 40, this 70%, these questions, and you have a strike rate or the correction rate of 80 to 90%, then over the past few years, we have seen that you will be comfortably clearing the cutoff. Okay. So it in the end, it also becomes the game of leaving. A good batsman will always know which ball to defend and which ball it just has to leave so that it can travel to the goalkeeper, the wicket keeper out there.
That's a very point.
You should have a mentality. You should have a mentality of Rahul Dravid in the prelims examination.
Well, the commentators used to say, well left. And that is what Chaman sir is saying for the aspirants to leave it well. And Deepika ma'am, I have a question. I'm reminded of an incident when you were talking to us that what is the reason that if once an aspirant has written mains, he is very likely to clear prelims multiple times. Would you like to share that?
See, basically, what happens is if you look at the prelim syllabus and main syllabus, in fact, when I'm doing my polity analysis, I'm actually going to talk about the main syllabus. Most of the questions that are asked in prelims are based out on main syllabus. Because prelims mein, they just give one line. And from that one line, what do you make out of it? National freedom movement is it? a simple phrase. So what in national freedom movement? There are so many facets in it. British made laws. Why British made laws are so important? Because all our reactions, all our movements, what we call as the national freedom movement, were the protests against what the Britishers have done to us. So
Right.
what have Britishers done to us? Economic drain. We talk about things like that. For an elaboration of the syllabus, it is very important that you do your mains first. When you do your mains first, you will cover everything. The second advantage is when you write on answers, conceptual clarity. Without conceptual clarity, writing answers is very difficult. So practicing answers is very important to clear mains, that prelims. That is the reason why a student who clears mains or at least writes mains once, ab dekh lo, majority of the statistics prove that they clear prelims.
Yeah, guys. So you should take that, note that point up. Yes, and Chaman sir, please continue.
Yeah, so we have also compiled over the last 10 years, till 2014, the marks of CSAT were also added in the prelims cutoff. So after 2015, what happened is like they just the cutoff is based on the merit list is based on only performance of the GS1 paper. So earlier we used to see that vacancies were high. In 2015, 2016, the vacancies were high. The number of aspirants that appeared were relatively low as compared to those. So there is a progressive increase, I would say, of the number of candidates which are appearing for the prelims examination. Please note that these are the candidates who are appearing for the examination and not the candidates who has filled the form. Around every year, 10 to 12 lakhs candidates, they fill the form, but out of these 10 to 12 lakhs, less than 50%, I would say, they appear in the prelims examination. And the cutoff has been fluctuating over the past few years. So in 2015-16, when I think the questions were relatively direct and more from the current affairs section. So the cutoff used to go a bit high. So in 2016, the 2016 paper was the most heavily current affairs based paper that I have seen till now. And the cutoff, it shot up to 116. We can't imagine this in today's trends, like what UPSC has been doing in the past 2 to 3 years. We cannot imagine that cutoff can reach 116. And it has done in 17, 18, 19, it has started asking a bit static. In 2017, they introduced more static questions. In 2018, 19, they introduced more static questions in the examination, and the cutoff progressively declined. Then the COVID came, the two civil service examination cycles, they got disrupted. The prelims that was supposed to happen in June was deferred to October. So these 2020 and 2021 papers, they happened in the midst of the COVID examination. And you note that the amount of vacancies had reduced drastically. So we can say around, as compared to 2015-16, 300 vacancies were less in 2020 and 2021. Might be because of the COVID crisis, and there was another thing, that Indian Railway Management Service. There was a discussion about the whether to conduct a separate examination for the Indian Railway Services or whether to retain the other different type of services, IRTS, IRAS, different type of account service, railway traffic service, these sort of services. But after 2021, it was decided, okay, that will be again making a cadre of railway management services, IRMS. Then I think around 150 vacancies got added since 2022 in the UPSC notification. And the cutoffs, I would say, in 2018-19 paper was more or less the same type of level of difficulty. The cutoff remained same. And in 2020-21, cutoff fell sharply. And in 2021, least number of vacancies, the cutoff also reflects that. 2022, the cutoff, it increased a bit, only marginally, but the number of vacancies has increased now in 2022. In the past 2 years, 2023 and 2024, the vacancies has been over 1,000, and we can see that approximately 6 lakh aspirants now are appearing in the examination. So the number of the competition is increasing day by day. Even though over the past couple of years we can see the vacancies are increased, but the candidates appearing, and most of them are like those candidates who has cleared this entire examination once or twice, but are appearing again and again in order to improve their ranks. So you have to compete with them also. In 2023, as I have told earlier, was the year that UPSC disrupted this entire cycle. The level of difficulty of CSAT was insane. It was like topping the CAT level of the CSAT, and the amount of questions, that how many type of questions that UPSC put that year, more than 50 such questions were there. So the cutoff, it fell sharply to 75, the lowest in the trend that we are seeing. In 2024, the pattern was more or less like 2022, and the number of candidates were also like on the same scale, and the cutoff, it was okay, it was in the same range, it has improved to 87.98. But one thing we have to like ponder upon, earlier 10 years before, what used to happen is that all the 100 questions were taken by UPSC to prepare the answer key, and were used to score the candidates. But over the past few years, what we are seeing is that UPSC is dropping one, two, and this time they have dropped three questions out of a possible 100. So the cutoff will be decided by these 97 questions, and this is the thing that an aspirant must keep in mind, that whether the institutes, they are providing you with the answer key, but you never know that whether that question might still be there when the answer key of official answer key of UPSC comes out or not. Okay, so over to Deepika ma'am. And these are the charts of vacancies and cutoff. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chaman. I am now going to take you all through the analysis for polity. Basically, polity questions, I'm not going to discuss the questions because the priority in this session is to give you a trend analysis. What we are going to do is we're going to understand the main syllabus and then understand how questions have been coming. Polity, the biggest issue, I hope my screen is visible now.
Yeah, it is, ma'am.
Yeah, the biggest issue with polity is it is static to a large extent, because you have, I'm not saying it is completely static, but it is reasonably static because a lot of things in the constitution don't change. But having said that, the fact remains that there will be a lot of
Ma'am,
dynamic
it's not.
questions also.
Sorry, ma'am, to disturb.
It's
It's not
actually,
visible. Yeah.
yeah, no, it is actually loading.
Okay, yeah.
Yes,
It is.
ma'am.
It is.
Now it is visible.
From
Okay.
my end, it is not visible. So basically, the first thing that you should do is to understand how questions would be asked. Is it visible?
No,
It's
ma'am.
loading, ma'am. While it's loading, I had a question also what Chaman sir was talking about with that. Chaman sir, you said that there are 10 lakhs of student, and I like to give this question to Dinesh sir especially. Dinesh sir, there are 10 lakh aspirants filling up the form, and there are around 4 or 5 lakh appearing. What do you think, sir? How many aspirants are serious about it? What's the real competition? What do you think? While ma'am is ready with it, quickly
Sir,
give the answer to that, sir.
sir, whatever the year, whatever the number of vacancies we have, sir, 80 to 90,000 aspirants are very serious about it. They leave their jobs, or maybe they are very dedicated and they'll be preparing. Of course, it may not be reflected. It may not directly depend on the cutoff, right? We have to see the difficulty of the exam and number of posts also. But generally, 80 to 90,000 are very, very serious aspirants. So I think so.
So you want to say, Dinesh sir, the real competition is 1 lakh student, if we can say around 1 lakh. And
Yes, sir.
yes,
Yes.
that was from Dinesh sir, our faculty for geography. And yes, Deepika ma'am is ready now with it. Ma'am, please.
Yeah. And so basically, as I said, the syllabus for your prelims is simply this much. It says political system, panchayat raj, public policy, rights and issues, and etc. Political constitution means, one article 1 to 395. Are we supposed to read all the 395 articles? Political system encompasses all the procedures, institutions, processes involved in decision making and implementation. So it covers all forms of government that we have. It covers all constitutional, non-constitutional bodies, all laws, all schemes. Everything comes under the political system. Panchayat Raj is specifically mentioned, and public policy is the instrument that the government uses to make decisions. So basically, this syllabus is very vague. So according to me, if you really want to understand what will be asked, it is very important that you read your main syllabus detailedly, because, for example, you have historical underpinnings. Historical underpinnings is a topic that overlaps with modern Indian history, which is nothing but the constitutional development in India. Okay, so if you read the syllabus carefully in mains, you'll understand what topics should be focused for prelims. That is the first thing. Second thing, I would suggest reading the NCRTs. NCRTs are very, very important. Along with NCRTs, you should also read political science, PSIR books of class 11 and 12, because questions are being directly picked up from there. Polity, Lakshmikant is a go book, but if you really want conceptual clarity along with Lakshmikant, I would suggest read Subhash Kashyap. There is a book called Our Constitution, which is written by Subhash Kashyap, which is more lucid in explanation, easy to follow, and you have a lot of examples as well. Now, let's look at the trend analysis of all the questions. Fundamental rights, preamble, DPSP, and fundamental duties is one topic which is related to philosophy of the constitution, which every year you'll have at least one question. So you cannot go unprepared as far as these topics are concerned, and especially the case judgments. Supreme Court take on fundamental rights and its interpretation is usually asked. After this, the most asked is Parliament. Parliament actually is a very lengthy topic in your syllabus, and parliamentary procedures, parliamentary provisions are very, very important, because Parliament is the cornerstone of decision making in India. So everything related to Parliament becomes important, and you had maximum number of questions from there. Governance, basically, we talk about the various institutions related to governance, the various decisions made by government, questions on laws, legislations, and news, and so on, that also will come under governance. Otherwise, this is the general breakup that you have. My focus more on is on this. This is your main syllabus. So if you read this syllabus very carefully, you will be able to understand what you have to read for your prelims as well as mains. Historical underpinnings is nothing but British made laws in India, followed by framing of the Constitution of India. There have been questions on who was the temporary president of the Constituent Assembly, on the committees of Constituent Assembly, the drafting committee, Constitution Day, and so on and so forth. Features is where we cover all the concepts. Like, for example, we say India has a mix of integrated and independent judiciary. You need to know what is integrated, what is independent judiciary. Amendments, procedure, amendment, all important amendments till date. Recent amendments like the 106 constitutional amendment are extremely important. They've already been asked. Significant provisions of the constitution and basic structure doctrine. Basic structure basically goes with amendments. Now, this is about the functions and responsibilities of union and states. Basically, we talk about what is union responsible for, what is a state responsible for, and then challenges pertaining to the devolution of powers and finances up to the local levels is nothing but your Panchayat Raj institutions. Then we have comparative constitutions, which is usually considered as a topic for mains, but there have been questions and prelims on comparative constitutions, where questions have been asked comparing Indian constitutions with other constitutions in the world. And parliament and state legislature, here you have to know about the officers of parliament, the provisions related to parliament, parliamentary terminology, procedures that are followed in parliament, and so on. Then you have judiciary, ministries and departments. Ministries and departments are usually not read. In 2025 also, you had a question on organizations and which ministry they come under. So this can be read from India Yearbook. That is very, very important, actually, a very neglected area. Then you have salient features of RPA, Representation of People's Act. RPA alone is not enough. You have to know about electoral reforms till date. You have to know about the Election Commission of India and so on. RPA related questions are also being asked in prelims of late. Then you have constitutional, statutory, regulatory, quasi-judicial bodies. And this part is your governance related. I did not include social justice in the syllabus because I wanted to stick to polity. Now moving on, let's look at the questions. See, mains syllabus based questions. These questions I've picked up to show you how important main syllabus is, how it can guide in your prelims preparation. This question was asked in 2024. It is related to evolution of the Constitution of India because it is asking about the provisional president of Constituent Assembly. Now, this question overlaps with what Tiwari ji has said. This actually comes under party system in India, we usually teach party system along with pressure groups. We have a topic called pressure groups. Along with pressure groups, we teach party system. In my class, I actually give a list of parties, the year of formation, who were the founding member or founder of the party, and what is the election symbol. At times, they also ask you the election symbol, especially if they have common symbols. So this is related to that. Then constitutional amendments, as I said, important constitutional amendments should always be read. You should be thorough about the Article 368 as well as the constitutional amendments. Then we have bodies. The most likely question on any authority is whether it is a constitutional body, quasi-judicial body, or a statutory body. At times, they ask you about the composition, the powers and functions. If a body is in news, ensure that you have a 360-degree view of what is the body, when it is constituted, why it is constituted, who will be there in it, what are the qualifications, what are the limitations and powers of that body, because usually these questions are asked. And then from the main syllabus, see, this is where you have to understand that polity, the problem with the subject is when you read it, it seems very easy, but when you actually have to apply it and answer your questions, it is very difficult, because whenever they refer to the constitution, you have to actually identify what is given in the constitution. And whenever they ask a question generally, you have to write from the perspective of how it is followed in general. Now, this particular question is related to constitutional amendment bill, and you have to answer this question on the basis of your knowledge of Article 368. Many a time students ask, should we read an article? I would insist that you read an article at least once. Once at least you should read the entire article, because when you read the article, you'll know what words are used in it, what is not used in it, and these questions are usually asked in polity. So please ensure that you read the concerned articles whenever you're going through a topic. For example, you're reading fundamental rights. Ensure that you read each article at least once to know what is there in the article. It is very important that you read the bare article. Now, this again is related to historical underpinnings. This is a topic which overlaps with modern Indian history. The difference in approaches in modern Indian history, when you read this, you also read about why the law came into existence and what was the impact of the law. Am I right, Tiwari? You read the whole sequence. You have to know why did the government, yes.
And there is one more thing I like to add here, ma'am. If you see, this is the, we say that we are interconnecting or interlinking. Many of these topics that you see here, ma'am, is common between history and polity. And sometimes students, if they are reading these two subjects together, especially while the part in the constitution, ma'am, which is taken from the Constituent Assembly and all those parts from the Government of India Act 1935, and especially this, what you're talking about, ma'am, Government of India Act 1919, all these somewhere or the other were responsible for what constitution right now we are having, ma'am. So I believe students, especially the serious aspirant, should interconnect and try to read these topics together, and it will be helpful for them.
That's how you should do it. For history, it is about the pre and post, which adds. For polity, we specifically focus on what has been the effect of this law on the constitution. So we look at the provisions and its impact on the constitution. Now, moving forward, I told you that there will be comparative questions. This is a comparative question. Parliamentary form of government we've adopted from Britain, but how is British parliamentary form of government different from Indian parliamentary form of government? Remember, comparative constitutions are also being asked in your prelims. Okay. This is about the essential features of federalism. So features of federalism is given in your main syllabus. Representation of People's Act related question. This is, as I said, RP Act is also being asked in your prelims. Now, moving forward, if I have to divide the questions on polity into different headings, the first question I would talk about is concept-based questions, where you need to understand. See, for example, what do you mean by constitutional government? Unless you know what is constitutional government, the concept, the idea behind a constitutional government, you'll not be able to answer. One more reason why I picked this question is, if you notice, the same question with a little change in the words was asked 3 times till now in for prelims and in quick succession. 2021 this was asked, 22 it was asked, 23 it was asked. The question was on constitutional government. So it is very, very important that you have to do your PYQs, because proper revision of PYQs, proper solving of PYQs will help you to answer at least up to 10 questions in your now main prelims. So it is very important you do that. The second is about the provisions of the Constitution. Constitution, what is exactly given, you should know. Knowledge of the provisions, knowledge of the words, at least the key words that we talk about with reference to polity, if they are mentioned in the Constitution or not. For example, whenever we talk about India and progress, we talk about welfare state, but welfare state is a term nowhere written in the Constitution. So you should be very specific. This is with regard to the provisions of the Constitution, whether we have classification of ministers in the Constitution or not. Unless you have read about this under 74, 75, and 78, you'll not understand articles these are. You'll not be able to answer this question. The second, this question I've specifically included to tell you how important it is to read an article. In Article 368, they're asking you whether these three words are mentioned or not. Unless you read the article, you'll not be able to answer this. So please ensure that you read the bare article at least once.
Ma'am, a small question from experience perspective. Is it required to go through all the articles, and is it possible to remember all the articles?
We don't have to go through all the 395 articles. To be more specific, 448 articles. No. Having said this, what happens is, as you keep reading, as you keep revising, if I ask any of you, where is it written that untouchability is abolished, even without a single thought, you will say Article 17. So the revision key is revision. However, there will be around 100 to 150 articles which you should know in and out. Like 368, if you notice, this is the second question I'm showing you. 368 will be asked. It is forever important. So like that, we have a few articles that students have to know. Actually, we are going to launch a series of articles. I have identified 100 most articles, and we are doing shorts on it because that will help students to quickly revise and understand what are the most important articles. Now, moving forward, authorities, we've already seen this governance related question. Chief Secretary of the state. Usually this comes under governance of the state. State and central government apparatus, especially the executive. You have to read about the PMO, you have to read about the cabinet secretariat, the state secretariat, directorates. Unless you read these in governance, you'll not be able to answer such questions. Now, legislations, whenever you have, this is legislations and news. Whenever you have laws and news, you will have questions. For example, what were the issues with regard to the law and news? That issue has been given, and they're asking you to pair it with the correct law. So these questions are picked up from current affairs. Legislations and news is very, very important. Most of the times, current-based questions in polity will come from legislations and news. This is about the Supreme Court judgment on right to marry a person of one's choice. It comes under which article is based on Supreme Court's judgment in the Hadia case. Now, moving forward, miscellaneous, this is one area which usually none of us cover. I do specifically cover this in the class. I usually talk about the National Honors Act, the National Honors of India, the national flag, anthem, the national song, the emblem, calendar, and the national pledge. These are very, very important because, see, generally also as a citizen of this country, I believe you should know about it. Otherwise, also in UPSC, there has been focus on such things. So this you can either get it from the India yearbook. The second chapter has all this information, but generally also on any government website, it is available. Ensure that you're thoroughly aware of when they were adopted, who designed them, what are the specifications, what are the laws related to it. The flag code is very, very, very important. So you should know all such things. These come under miscellaneous, and the last part of it is facts. This is a question that I have earlier repeated, but facts are also important, like who, when, what, they will ask you. Amendment, who recommended the 7th constitutional amendment, who recommended the 42nd constitutional amendment. So these factual questions are very, very important. There'll be a few facts that you have to focus on. Article numbers should be remembered. So in totality, if you ask me, this is a question that was asked, current base that was asked in 2024 because delimitation was in news. And the question is simple. How many delimitation commissions have been constituted by the government of India in 2023? UPSC is full of surprises. When you expect a very difficult question, they ask you a very simple, sweet, and short question. When you expect a very simple question, they go in an angle which nobody would have even thought of. So this is a very simple question on delimitation commission. So this is it about polity. Polity, my suggestion would be first read the main syllabus. Try to decode the main syllabus. Then identify your resources. Most important will be your NCRTs, followed by, I would recommend Our Constitution by Subhash Kashyap. Lakshmikant is anyways good, but the conceptual clarity, the flow of thought, how should you write your answers? You'll get it better when you read a book like Subhash Kashyap, Our Constitution. So this is about polity. I will ask Dinesh, Reni to start with economy.
Yes, ma'am. Sure. Yes. So I will be sharing my screen, guys. And so can you see? Can you all see?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, so finally we will be talking about economy. Economy is something which is very important. And another point of economy is that you don't have to mug a lot of things. If you understand economy, then you are good with most of the questions. Suppose if they are asking 22 questions, 20 questions along with the current affairs, if we talk about static and current affairs, then if you are done with your fundamentals and if you're done with your current affairs, then you will take very less time in solving the economy questions. Okay, so here your fundamentals are all about your NCRTs for static and then your current affairs. Okay, this is your pillar. Now going to the reference books. Generally we say that we need to cover NCRT from standard 9th to 12th. But if your fundamentals are clear, you can even start it. You can take the books from standard 10 or even 11th and 12th you can go above. So if we talk about standard 12, we have macro and micro. Then in 11, we have Indian economic development and business studies. So these are the major books. But apart from that, you have to surprise it with the current affair events. That is your newspaper, magazine, current affair magazines. And in our Shikara IS Academy, we are doing both. We have started our NCERT course, students, and then we have also started our daily news analysis. So this is a win-win situation for all of you. You can go and check out these courses and you will be sorted for your static as well as your current affairs. Going forward, you will see the demarcation of mark. So you have to go through your PYQs. Okay, you have to go through your PYQs. Previous years, if I tell you, from 2011, and today also we have done this analysis which is happening since 2011. Okay, so you should start your PYQs from 2011 until now. You have to solve it, and after solving it, my dear students, you will get to know a lot of repetitions are happening. Yes, a lot of repetitions will be happening, as you have seen in polity, right? As you have seen in polity, that same kind of question is coming again and again. Similarly, same kind of questions are repeated here in economy as well. And if we see the bifurcation, then we will see the external sector is the most type of questions which are asked is from external sector. And then if we go, we have agriculture. Okay, we have a lot of topics. If we talk about topic wise, then we will see national income accounting is there, money and money supply is there. Again, banking becomes so important. See, 18 questions. Okay, banking becomes very important. Fiscal policy and government budgeting. Yes, and one more point, important point I forgot to tell you all. In your current affairs for economy, you will be covering your economy survey and budget as well. Okay, economy survey and budget of this particular year. Suppose you are going to give your paper this year. You are going to give your paper 2026 May. So, us February May, it will be coming your economic survey and budget. That will be very important for that year's prelims and mains. Okay. Then we'll see agriculture again has become a very important topic for economy. And rest also we are having external sector, financial market, infrastructure, energy sector, LPG reforms, poverty. Poverty they have not asked much, but still, as we all know, UPSC is unpredictable. So you have to be ready with all these topics, be it national income accounting, money supply, monetary policy, banking, or be it agriculture. Okay, so let's get to the questions which we have to discuss. Okay, so we will be seeing some of the important questions, and I have to. Okay, let's get started. With reference to the corporate social responsibility, CSR activity. Okay, rules in India consider the following statements. So CSR, the first statement says that CSR rules specify that expenditures that benefit the company directly or its employee will not be the CSR activity. So what do you think? The CSR activity are actually helping the company or it's helping the society? It's actually helping the society. The CSR activity, the name itself is saying that corporate social responsibility that the company has to take it for the society. Okay. And thus, it is not benefiting the company. And this is again your right. And then they are telling the second statement, which is your CSR rules do not specify minimum spending on CSR activity. This is completely wrong. This is wrong because again, there is whatever there is a profit, okay, profit cut 2% is there, they're investing on this CSR activity. So your option 1 will be correct. 1 only will be your answer as the question asks about the correct option. Okay. Going forward, we will see with reference to the Indian economy, consider the following statements. If the inflation is too high, Reserve Bank of India is likely to buy government securities. What do you think? If the inflation is too high, matlab, there is a lot of money in the market, right? There is a lot of money in the market. When there is a lot of money in the market, okay, and if government will buy the securities, again the money will go in the market. So why will RBI do that? RBI will not do that. So statement 1 is wrong. Okay, when there is inflation, money is already there in the market floating because the prices of the commodities are rising. So at that time, RBI will not buy the security and give the money in the hands of people. Rather, it will sell securities. Okay. Statement 1 is wrong. Then the next statements talk about if the rupees is rapidly depreciating, the value of rupees is going down, RBI is likely to sell the dollars in the market. So let me be very, very clear to you. This statement might be a little complicated when you see it, but this is very simple. Okay. This is saying when the value of money is reducing. Okay. When the value of money is reducing, RBI is going to sell the dollars in the market. Yes, it is going to sell the dollars. Why? Because when the value of rupees is depreciating, then the dollar is not there in the market. Hai na? In comparison to the dollar, the rupees value is depreciating. In the market, Indian market needs more inflow of dollars in the market. So in that case, RBI will sell dollars in the market, which is correct. Now, the third statement tells that if interest rates in the US and European Union were to fall, it is likely to induce RBI to buy dollars. Yes, again, that is right. So your 2 and 3 statements are correct here. And this gives you a very basic knowledge of inflation, deflation, depreciation of values. Okay. By knowing the meaning of these 3 terms, by knowing the practical application of these 3 terms, you can solve such kind of questions. Okay. Going forward, we will see another question. It was in 2024, recently asked. So now they're talking about working capital and fixed capital. What is working capital? What is fixed capital? So now farmer's plot, it is a working capital. What do you think? Does it is a working capital? Yes, farmer is working with it every day. But my dear friend, it is a capital. This is a long-term fixed capital because he is buying it and it can be used for year long and more than that. Okay, so your farmer block is not a working capital, it is a fixed capital. Yes. Then your computers, is it a fixed capital? Yes, it is a fixed capital because it is a long-term investment. It is your long-term investment in that capital, and that makes it a fixed capital. Yarn used by the weaver. Okay, what is this yarn used by the weaver? So this wool hai na? What is the wool? When we are using wool to weave our sweaters and all, you will be having same example as that. Okay, so when we are using the wool gets empty, and now we will be selling the sweater. All the wool is used. So when all the wool is used while you're working, it should be working capital, right? So this is again your working capital. Okay. And then your petrol, my dear students. Petrol is your working capital because when you're working, it gets exhausted. It is not your long-term capital. You cannot save it for your long-term fixed capital. So again, this is correct. Okay. One is correct. Sorry, one is wrong. Two is correct and four is correct. So option here is only two because we don't have the option of 1 and 4. Okay. Now going to the next question, that is your gold trench. What is this gold trench? Let me see any messages there. Okay. So what is this gold trench, students? So these are reserves. Okay, these are reserve trenches. They are given the meaning also over here. These are reserve trenches with which body? The countries are keeping the reserve to with which body? Is it World Bank, or it's going to the central bank, or it's going to WTO or IMF? So here the world organization, okay, the international organization becomes very important. Okay, be it your World Bank, be it your RBI, WTO, IMF. You have to read about them, and it is there in the syllabus as well. So here the answer is D, a credit system granted by IMF to its members. So this gold trench, reserve trench, is the scheme granted by IMF. Okay. Moving to the next question. The next question is telling, it's a little tricky question. I remember when I was going through this question, I was also very confused when I was solving it. But this question again is related to basic knowledge of cash inflow, money supply into the market. Okay. So it's talking about if you withdraw some amount of money, 1 lakh cash from a demand deposit account. Okay. You have deposited your 1 lakh money in your demand deposit account, and now you're taking it back. The cash is in your hand. In that case, what will happen? Will it reduce? Will the money supply in the market? So they're talking about money supply. Will the money supply in the market, in the economy, will reduce to that amount? Increase to 1 lakh? It increases more than? ये तो होगा ही नहीं. Like, this is something you can like think if you have read the basics of economy. This will not be there, and to leave it unchanged. So what do you think? Again, the answer is 4 because, my dear friends, when we are keeping money in demand deposit, money is already there in money supply chain. It is there in the demand deposit account. It is there in your account. And when you take it out, it is there in your hand. So again, the money is in supply. Only the form of the money has changed. Okay. In the form of demand deposit account, it was there. But when it came in your hand, it came in the form of cash or UPI, which you are using. Okay, only the form of money has changed, but the money was already there in the supply in the market. Okay. Now, the next question is again about the international organization, the free trade partners of ASEAN countries. Okay, when it comes to ASEAN countries, we know that these are your Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Myanmar, Malaysia. These are your ASEAN countries, right? And now you're talking about the free trade partners. They're not talking about the members of ASEAN. Mind you, they are talking about the free trade. So currently, if we talk about, there are a lot of free trade countries. India is also one of the members. So first search for India. Yes, China is also there. Australia is there, my dear friends, and Japan is also there. So these are the countries who are actually the free trade partners of ASEAN, but not exactly, but not actually the members of ASEAN. They are the free trade partners. So this answer is 1, 3, 4, 5, and this is your answer. Going ahead, this question is repeating. So I will be again giving, I will be asking Chaman sir to continue further for rest of the subjects.
Well, guys, that was Rani ma'am. You heard it from her for the economy part. Thank you, Rani ma'am. And now we'll start with the science and tech part. Chaman sir, are you ready with it?
Yes, sir. So
Okay.
thank you, Tiwari sir. Thank you, Rani ma'am. So am I audible right now?
Yeah, you are, sir. And this screen is also
Okay.
clear.
Okay, okay. ठीक है. Okay. So we are beginning with science and technology. So this science and tech, uh, as we have observed, like it is around 15% of the entire prelims paper is directly or indirectly linked to the science portion of the syllabus. So in the prelims syllabus, we are just given a very broad and vague line. It is just written as general science, and a line is also written important events of national and international importance, current events of international and national importance. So current affairs and general science. Only these two words are mentioned in the syllabus. So how do we prepare ourselves to the questions that might be asked in the prelims? So as Deepika ma'am has said, we have to look at the main syllabus because we cannot infer a lot of things from these two words, general science. So if you look at the main syllabus, we see that they are asking about the developments and their application and effects in everyday life. So we have ongoing discoveries, we have ongoing research going on different fields, be it space science, be it biotechnology, be it information technology, be it communication technology, artificial intelligence, computers, robotics. So in these diverse fields, we have research going on. So questions arise from these uh, developments that are taking place. Now, achievements of Indians in science and technology. We get every year or two, we get a question on ISRO and DRDO. What are they developing and what are its uses? So these are our indigenous technology that is asked predominantly in the examination. And what new technology India is developing. We are asked about our weapon systems, about the different type of missiles that we have. So all these become a part of the science and tech. Then we have different awareness in the field of IT, space, computers, robotics, nanotech, biotech. Every year we find questions based on these topics. So a student has to prepare the main syllabus first and keep it updated with the current affairs in order to prepare for this science portion. We have some textbook references. We have science from class 6 to 10. It will give a broader general understanding about the general science. It will cover the general science syllabus. One or two questions every year is asked from this particular domain that will be looking in when we look at the questions, and they are important websites. So 11, 12 biology, biotechnology, we have to read the biotechnology book. So biotechnology over the years, the trend we have seen is the most amount of questions over the past 15 years, directly or indirectly, has been asked from the biotechnology portion. Maybe because it was of the vaccine development, be it immune systems, each and everything can be dealt with the NCRTs. Other than that, we have to look at the websites, the important government websites like NASA's website, ISRO's website, because space tech is another very crucial portion of the science syllabus. We have to up to date our knowledge about the recent developments by reading the Hindu newspaper and the Indian Express newspaper, especially its page on text and context, and the Indian Express page of explained. So these were the sources that we must, these were the syllabus and these were the sources that we should be focusing on. Now let's see the trend analysis over the past 15 years. what sort of questions from which different topics has been UPSC asking the questions. So human body, just very basic general science, cell bio, general science, microbiology is also general science, diseases, immune system. So we see the maximum number of questions has been asked from the biotechnology. Over the past 15 years, 17, 18 questions have been asked. So more than one, the average comes out to more than one question based on biotechnology. Similarly, the computers and the information technology, the basic computing, it also every year on average we get one question from this. Communication technology, the satellites, the governance, how is the science and technology is helping in governance, energy, nanotechnology. We have seen a question on nanoparticles coming in a couple of years back. Now, others we have miscellaneous technology, just like artificial intelligence is developing, the deep learning, these sort of technology are in miscellaneous technology. Another important, very important is space science and technology, 19 questions. So the same average, more than one question has been, UPSC has been asking based on space technology and the space sciences. And it's not restricted to ISRO. It asks about the development of NASA, even the Chinese space development program, the Japanese space development program, the European space development program. Now looking up, having a brief look at the type of questions that are being asked in the science section. So UPSC generally asks this multi-statement question. Direct questions are seldom asked in the science and tech portion. So the multi-statement question, this was asked in prelims 2020. General science, class 9, basic NCERT, the question has been picked. The plant cells, and we, in the very first class at Shikara Science and Tech module, we teach this, the difference between a cell of an animal cell and a plant cell. So the plant cell have cell walls where the animal cells do not. Plants do not have plasma membrane unlike the animal cells which do. And mature plant cells has one large vacuole where the animal cells has many small vacuoles. So this basic fact, if a person knows that all the cells, they have the plasma membrane, so this statement automatically becomes incorrect because it says that plant cells do not have plasma membrane. Removing statement 2 will eliminate all the options and we will simply get the basic elimination at its very best in this question. Very low hanging fruit, and if I have to categorize it, it's a very easy low hanging fruit. This sort of question every aspirant should have got it right. Now, direct questions are a few, but they do sometimes are asked. So this is a direct question and it's based on the general chemicals that are in the news or might be given in your textbooks. So triclosan, this question is on triclosan. So what we know about triclosan, that it is an antimicrobial, it has antimicrobial properties. And if it has antimicrobial properties, if an aspirant knows this much, that it has antimicrobial properties, then he or she can eliminate the first option, that it is not used in food preservatives. And it is also not used in fruit ripening. It is not a fruit ripening substance and is not reused in plastic containers and is not used in plastic containers. Food preservative might be become a bit dicey because okay, it is antimicrobial, so it can be used, but it has certain harmful effect for the human health as well. So we do not use it much in food preservatives. So the correct answer will be D, toiletries. It is also a relatively easy question, but you must be knowing, you must have gone through the current affairs and you must be knowing that it has antimicrobial properties. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult to solve this type of question. Now, again in 2021, because the COVID crisis was in news, the coronavirus was in news. So a virus-based question, just theoretical virus-based question was asked. We are asked about the adenoviruses and the retroviruses. These are two types of viruses that are found. Coronavirus is also a family of viruses. So we also have rhinoviruses. So these are different virus families. So adenovirus and retrovirus, it has been taken from the current affairs because in any of the newspaper article, you might find the discussion about adenovirus and retrovirus when it was in 2020 or 21. So we have to see that adenoviruses have single stranded DNA and this statement is incorrect. And these two statement based questions, what happens is like if you eliminate one statement with your knowledge or if with your luck, so then you can comfortably eliminate two statements that are two options. But you have to know that common cold is also your possibility to solve this question becomes 50-50. And if you are lagging behind, if you have not attempted ample amount of questions, around 70 or to 80 questions, if you are lagging behind, then you should go and attempt these type of questions in which you have eliminated two statements, two options. So common cold is sometimes caused by adenoviruses, whereas AIDS is caused by retrovirus. When we read about AIDS in the classroom and in general textbook, it is written that AIDS is caused by retrovirus, and the common cold can be caused by a different variety of viruses. Be it coronaviruses can also give us common cold, rhinoviruses can also give us common cold, and adenoviruses can also give us common cold. So this statement becomes correct. The correct answer will be B. Now we have some application based. So how we are given one particular technology, how can we apply that technology in what different and diverse fields that we can apply that particular technology? So this question talks about GPS technologies. And we are given three: the mobile phone operations, banking operations, and controlling power units. So one thing is sure that any of these newer technologies, so they have a very wide potential use in diverse industries. They have a huge potential of different type of applications. They can be applied in different industries and in different sectors. So, and a statement has to be, an application has to be weirdly bizarre in order for us to eliminate that in the first place. So none of these are none of these are extremely bizarre statements. We can use GPS technology in mobile phone operations. We do it on a daily basis. The banks in their ATMs and in their where their money, their physical money goes from one place to another place, they do also use the GPS technology in order to track things. And the power grids, the fault of the power grids and the transmission of electricity in power grids can also be monitored using GPS technology. So GPS technology can find application in all these. And if we say that something is very drastically something is not happening, then it is safe to bet that all the three are possible and all the three are correct. Now we have another direct question, but direct questions are basically more based on, let's say, on the key terms that are asked in the question. So this is based on transcriptome. Previously, we saw a question based on triclosan. So these are also term-based questions. So these terms have been in the news and UPSC tends to ask the question. So in 2016, transcriptome, in 2015 and 16, it was in news. It comes under bioinformatics portion of the syllabus. And we have to just know the right answer. And please, there is ample discussion on the current affairs that you must be going through. And if you are not well versed with the current affairs, then these sort of questions you will not be able to solve in the examination, because no such statement is very bizarre or very extreme that you can eliminate. You have to know the right answer, and the right answer here will be the full range mRNA molecules. In the class, we read about the transcription process. Transcription is a process in which DNA is converted into mRNA. And if in the classroom a student pays attention and just knows that, okay, in the process of transcription, DNA is converted to mRNA, then also he or she can apply that same logic and can search for the mRNA in the options and get this question right. Now, the matching based question, the UPSC, which has been playing tricks after 2022, especially, has been asking how many pairs are correctly matched. So we look at it is basically a question. This is not based on space tech, but is a question on space science. We should know what a pulsar is, what a comet is, what an asteroid is, what a nebula is. So cepheids, these are not giant clouds of dust. Nebulae are the giant clouds of dust and gas in space. Cepheids, on the other hand, are the stars which brighten and dim periodically. So these are observed by the space telescopes such as James Webb and Hubble Space Telescopes, and they emit a bright and they dim, bright, dim, bright, dim. So periodic oscillation they do between being bright and being dim. Pulsars are the neutron stars that are formed when massive stars run out of the fuel and collapse. So we see that in order to get this question correct, we need to know all the three about all the three entities that are given here. So only one is correct. So third will be our correct option here. Now in the science and technology mains, we see we have syllabus and we are given our intellectual property rights regarding regulations and laws that are given in the syllabus. It is not specially written in general science portion of the prelim syllabus, but it is mentioned in the main syllabus. And in 2019, UPSC has asked a question based on these policy and legislation based questions only. So according to these statements, according to UPSC, so the Indian Patents Act, they have asked about Indian Patents Act. So in science, we had to be thorough with the Indian Patents Act and about the Intellectual Property Appellate Board and the plant varieties that and the different type of species and varieties of seeds and something like that that are being patented in India. So going through all this, we know the correct answer is B, because according to a biological process to create can be patented. No such process cannot be patented in India, which creates some sort of seeds. All the different statements are correct. In India, we do not have an intellectual property appellate board, and the plant varieties are not eligible to be patented in India. So that's okay. So let's discuss one of the miscellaneous questions. So what this miscellaneous they do is like we are given terms sometimes seen in news. So term based question we have seen transcriptome, and in a couple of years later they give this Barrett experiment is of space science. Blockchain technology is emerging technology. Digital emerging technology. CRISPR-Cas9 is used in biotechnology. So they have used all the three different type of technologies in framing this particular question. And we have to know like whether which of these are correctly matched. So earlier UPSC used to ask which pairs are correctly asked. Now it has been asking how many of the pairs are correctly asked. So we know that 3 is not correctly matched. So eliminating 3, simple elimination method, we get our answer. So it is also a very easy question, but more broad in terms of topics. Okay, so that's all for science and tech discussion. Over to now Dinesh sir, who will be guiding you and will be giving you trends and analysis on the geography portion of this syllabus.
Thank you, Chaman sir. That was a beautiful explanation about science and technology. Yeah, let me share the screen. Yes, geography. Geography is one such subject where it is science half of the part and arts in other half of the part. So it is like both in BA and BSc. So you can expect questions similar manner. The technical part, the geomorphology, climate, and oceanography, where you need to find the reason, because in options and all, one option will not suffice. You have to find the reason for the second and third options. But like urbanization, migration, and all, you'll be having multiple options, right? So geography portion, if you see India and world geography, we have Indian and world geography, physical, social, economic geography of India and the world. In general, the weightage as per the syllabus should be equal, but we get more questions from Indian point of view. As we are Indians, of course, UPSC tends to give more questions from Indian geography. It is like 60-40, 60% from Indian and 40% from the world. But if you look at the textbook or references, NCERT is the best source rather than any private and public public publications. NCERT is the best from 6th to 12th, particularly from 9th to 12th, right? Anyway, 6th to 9th will be a repetitive, it will be like add-on. And you should not miss one such publication, that is GC Leong. Every year we get 2 to 3 questions in prelims mandatory from GC Leong, because that book is intensely covered for world geography, particularly human and physical geography. And along with that, Hindu, Indian Express, Economic Survey, annual reports will be there. But generally, current affairs are less asked in geography, but more asked in environment point of view. But whenever there is a current affairs in geography, that is a disaster. Hope we should not expect current affairs in geography. So now coming to the trends of geography, yes, the majority of the questions were asked from climatology. In world geography, majority of the questions, if you take the subject, geomorphology is almost like 50% of the complete world geography. But geomorphology weightage is only 5. You should be smart enough what to read, what not to read. You have to differentiate that. Climatology will be less compared to geomorphology, but the weightage is 15 marks, like 3 times, 150 times, 300% of the weightage when compared to geomorphology. But time, you have to allocate as per the time, right? As per the previous year questions, you have to allocate your time. But look at here, Indian drainage system. This is also one more interesting aspect where UPSC asks questions. There are so many rivers in India that many of you or me don't know, because there might be a river, a subsidiary river, maybe in any of the Northeast India, right? Now there is a question which was asked, like the Musi River, which flows through Hyderabad, to which river it is a subtributary, right? Godavari, Krishna, Tungabhadra, they have asked it. And similarly, one more question they asked about Vamshadhara Nagavali, which is one of the northernmost river of Andhra Pradesh. So if a person from Mizoram has to learn about the rivers of Andhra, northernmost Andhra, then rest all the Indians have to learn about rivers of rest all India. So that's the reason drainage system is very well versed, and you have to learn about minimum 200 to 300 rivers. Yes, we have so many rivers, all the rivers you have to see. That's the reason we get more weightage from Indian drainage system. And Indian economic geography from agriculture point of view, and also secondary sector, location of industries, that is also where you can expect more questions. India physiography, from Himalayas, we will definitely get 1 to 2 questions every year, and also from plateaus, plains. This is also a favorite topic for UPSC. And mapping. Over a period of time, mapping has become very, very difficult. I'll show you some questions. Once upon a time, just purchase some atlas or maybe Orient Black Swan or any of the atlas, just refer to the atlas, learn about which continent is where or what is the countries which are going with the equator or maybe Tropic of Cancer, we'll get it. But now, 2025, out of 4 mapping questions, only 1 can be solved directly. And remaining 3, you have to be having thorough knowledge of current affairs also, where those particular countries are located. And oceanography, soil and vegetation, generally we have less weightage because this will be more covered in environment. Water resources, yes, this is also quite less. World drainage system, majorly if we have current affairs news regarding world drainage system or maybe any of the rivers, then we get it. And world economic geography, this is also quite less, but you should not neglect it. Again, these 2 topics depend on the international relations and current affairs. If there are any rivers or any treaties that we made through, that particular rivers might be asked here. Now going towards some of the questions from geography. This question is easy. You may get questions as easy as possible, like what is the rotation of Mercury, or what is the reason behind length and night and day differences, or how much degrees the Earth is tilted. Of course, you will get 1 or 2 questions like that. But again, you have to be cautious whether they're asking only about day and night, or maybe variations, or maybe, see, these keywords are very important, not just length of day and night, variations in length of day and night. So is it rotation or revolution? Once we add variations, then it will be revolution. So keywords are very, very important, not just going with the flow. Okay, a day and night, this is the first chapter that I have learned, so obviously it is rotation, or it may be because of the tilt of the axis. Rotation plus tilt is different thing, revolution plus tilt is different thing. So keywords are very, very important. Now I'll take one more question from that class. Look at here, region and country. This was 2025 question. And Mallorca Italy, Normandy, Spain, and Sardinia, France. These are certain places where various prime ministers are in Europe, particularly one of the volcanoes that has been erupted and one of the treaties that has been done for environment. These are the two places. So those places from different parts of the subject of UPSC or maybe in environment, now they have been brought to Atlas as questions. For example, here all the three options are wrong. Morocco is in Spain, Normandy is in France, Sardinia is in Italy. So you can't even take a guess. Don't ever take a guess in this type of questions. That there is a probability of making mistake. Even though you know two, here there can be like only one, only two, all three are correct. So it is better advised in Atlas based questions, don't take a guess. If you know perfectly, go it. But the magic word is revise multiple times, even the Atlas, right? And there is questions where you can find logical listening questions like statement justification with multiple options. For example, this is a question which was asked in 2025 prelims. This is 2025 prelims. Now going through the questions, one option is about water on rocks, whether what is porosity, what is permeability. This is a statement which you might have been learning from your childhood. Chalk is porous and hence can absorb water. Obviously, we might have played with the chalks, or maybe if you throw chalk in a water, obviously it absorbs water. But clay is not at all porous. See, generally clay is not porous. If clay might be the porous, if you pour water in a pot, it should come out, but it is not porous. But not at all porous. Look at the stress of the word. When there is an extreme statements, none of them are correct. All of them are correct. Not at all correct. There can be a probability of mistake. Because what we know is only this much. But what we don't know is this much. UPSC asks questions about the greater probability. We should not think that we know everything, right? Even the books mention only this much. So here applying the logic can give us answer. So clay is not at all porous. No, not at all. Majority of the cases clay is not porous. But 10 to 15% clay is also porous, right? We don't know how many types of clays are there. In the world, there are hundreds of types of clays. He is generalizing everything. No, we can't generalize. In generalized questions, we should not go with specific options. So eliminating this will give the options, right? So only one of the statements in 2 and 3 are correct. That explains statement 1. This is how we have to eliminate. Though two options are easy, third option is tricky. So direct questions. Yes, in geography, 40% or 30 to 40% questions are direct. 10% questions are from map based. Remaining 50%, you have to apply logic by logic, secondary logic, tertiary logic you have to apply. Now, which of the following statements regarding the laterite soils of India are correct? Obviously, if you take a soil, you need to remember how many states it have been covered. That is very, very important. And if you can find the reason behind the soils, you will never forget it. They are generally red in color. They are rich in nitrogen and potash. They're well developed in Rajasthan and UP. And topica and cashew nuts grow well on these soils. Now look at carefully. Rajasthan and UP. So Rajasthan and UP they have alluvial plus desert soils, but not this type of soils, right? So you eliminate one option here. But see, there is a bonanza here. All the 4 options having one of the options, yes. From this logic, you may go backward and get one or more options. Not all options, but at least one or more options, right? They are rich in nitrogen and potash. Majority of the Indian soils are lack in nitrogen and potash, but laterite soils have this nitrogen and potash, right? Again, they are well developed in Rajasthan and UP. No, they are not developed in Rajasthan and UP, but in the southern parts, in the western Ghats part, where we have Rajasthan, southern part of Gujarat. This is where you get. So these type of questions are directly from NCERT, direct statements from NCERT. So reading the NCERT will give majority of the options. Here, except third option, remaining all 3 options are there in NCERT, right? So it was direct question from NCERT. Here, we are not going into the depth of what is right, what is wrong, but the source and also how the questions being asked. Next question, look at this. This is also map based, but difficult question. Look at these 3 lakes. This was very difficult, I used to say, because there are 3 lakes. Lake Tanganyika, Lake Tonle Sap, and also Portus Lagoon. This particular Tanganyika is near equator. The question is which of them passes through equator, which of them passes through equator. This was 4 degrees to the south. Or even you open any of the atlas, you tend to look at this particular lake in the South America, you feel that it is touching the particular equator. But only if you open Google Maps and see, it won't be touching the particular equator. So how can we expect each and every lake in the world to open Google Maps and read? It's not possible. So you can't expect 100% of the questions to be solved in geography too. Sometimes you have to have a bit of lucky, right? And Lake Tonle Sap, right, which is uh, in Indonesia, in the Eastern Indonesia, right, and also Potas Lagoon, right. So these areas, for example, Potas Lagoon is like southern part of equator. Okay, we can eliminate it, like almost like 30 degrees equator. But these two are like 6 degrees south. Right? This is 6 degrees north. This is 4 degrees south. So if this is zero, how can we expect lakes and or any other water bodies or countries which are just 2 degrees, 3 degrees or less than 10 degrees? There will be a confusion even if you read atlas. So these two aspects are there in current affairs. These two are there in current affairs. So current affairs based map questions are, for example, in this year, two questions which are difficult map based questions, as I have seen shown you here, atlas based this thing, and also map based question. Both are from current affairs, right? So just reading map based questions will not suffice, right? So these are some of the trends, right? So I
Dinesh sir,
request, yes sir.
yeah, so you were talking about this atlas-based question. Now, if you can come to that question, sir.
I was also just going to add to it, Chaman sir.
Yeah,
So, Dinesh
okay.
sir,
So
instead
I
of the
made a couple of
atlas,
observations here.
yeah,
So one thing is that if you are not very much versed with the atlas, but as a general awareness, you must be like if you are a sports fan and you happen to know who Rafael Nadal is, he is from the Mallorca. And if you're a fan of Rafael Nadal, you must be knowing that Mallorca is in Spain.
Yes, yes,
So then you can eliminate this. And other like when we read about the World War II, the main D-Day, the term D-Day comes from the Normandy landings on France. So
yes,
if a
yes.
student is very much versed about the world history, must be a general idea of world history, then also he or she can safely eliminate two options there. But still 50-50 chances there whether she or he will get the correct question or not.
well, what
Yes,
Chaman
sir.
sir is saying, that is for the serious aspirants, but not for the average ones. But Dinesh sir, I just wanted to say, instead of atlas, now should the aspirants start going through the Google Maps?
Yes, sir. Particularly this particular lakes question, I was when I opened the atlas, when I overthrow, like when I just gone through the atlas, even I got confused. Like, yeah, this is like this was near equator. So like north of peninsula is like equator. But when I opened Google Maps, it was like 4 point some degrees sir, south. So I was really worried, like how much difficulty the UPSC has no went through.
Well, even that's a surprising news for me too. So, what's the next subject that we are going to pick up, Deepika ma'am? Are we
Huh.
are we going to take any other subject?
Yeah,
Now there
yeah,
are
yeah. We
two
are
subjects left:
down.
international relations.
Okay.
The last would be IR. So quickly take you through IR. Basically, IR, you don't get a lot of questions, meaning the maximum that you can get would be around 10, 5 to 10. There have been years when you don't have anything coming from IR also. Nonetheless, IR is important. You cannot neglect it and you cannot leave it, because if at all they ask you about 4 or 5 questions, you lose on it. So usually places and locations in news, this actually overlaps with geography. Organizations are NGOs, IGOs. Usually they ask about these organizations. At least one question will be asked about the background of the organization, year of formation, where is the headquarter, what is the purpose, where were its summits held, what is India's relationship with IGO, and so on. International trade is something that usually is asked, and you get it overlaps again with economy. Nuclear treaties and organizations, basically you have a lot of what do you call, conventions, protocols, treaties that are being signed between countries. There are multilateral treaties that are signed. So any convention, any protocol, any treaty in news becomes important for you. Security related off late has been in focus. Countries in news, along with places in news. For example, Ukraine Russia war, the questions were on the borders of Ukraine and so on. And agreements and treaties, as I said, it overlaps with this, basically countries and all. If you ask me for IR also, my suggestion would be please go through the main syllabus. India, its neighborhood countries. First, see, IR overlaps a lot with map. Geopolitics is in, for geopolitics, for you to understand geopolitics, it is very, very important that you are familiar with the map. You need to know where a country is located, who is bordering whom, and that will define your relationship between countries. That is the reason why it is very, very important to understand the map. To begin with, I would say you should always start with India's foreign policy, how it evolved, and what are the different what stands India had taken at different points of time and why. This will be equally important for mains, prelims also. There can be questions, and then you have to know about India and its neighbors. First, identify India's neighbors. Understand the relationship between India and its neighbors, because that is important. Again, it overlaps with internal security. And then you have to know about the various milestones in India and its neighbors relationship. Then we have bilateral, regional, and global groupings. There are about 35 important groupings, out of which 10 would be more important. You should focus more on those groups which are in news, like G20 is there. Then you have Organization of Islamic Countries and so on. They are more important. Whatever is in news, you have to know its background. Then effect of policies and politics of developed and developing countries on India and Indian diaspora. Basically, this is again about India and the world. The difference is here we focus on neighborhood. Here it is about India and the world. India, America, India, EU, India, Australia, India, Dubai, India, UAE, and the developments that are happening across the world. Currently, our delegations that have gone to different countries are very, very important for your next year prelims. And then important international institutions, agencies, and fora. This is about the IGOs and NGOs that are there. Important IGOs and NGOs, they are usually asked, their background information is asked more. So if you have to divide and if you have to read foreign policy, India's foreign policy and its relationship with neighborhood, then India and world will be a larger topic, but it is mostly current based. Then the second segment of it will be IGOs, NGOs. What I usually suggest is read one IGO every day. Try to get a hang of one IGO every day. Becomes very easy to complete it. By the end of a month, you'll have all IGOs in place, and then you revise. Then the third aspect of international relations syllabus would be the other news, that is relationship between different countries, relationship between different organizations and countries. That is the third aspect. That is unlikely to be asked, means that is on priority, asked less, but the other two, India and the world, and IGOs are asked more. Now, these are a few questions that were asked. As I said, IGOs are important. World Toilet Organization was asked in 2024. Usually IGOs and news. Remember, IR is by and large current affairs. You have to follow the backgrounders along with the current news. So this was one, and then we had a policy-based decision by the European Parliament and European Union that was asked in 2024. This comes under IR. It has got nothing to do with India, but it comes under IR. Then this is about BRICS. It's an IGO. The question that was asked, if you see the last trend, the last 14 years, BRICS has been asked the most, along with G20. These are two IGOs which have been in news constantly, and India has played a prominent role. Then we have, this is between, as I said, between countries, between a country and an IGO. So like this, questions will be asked again. If you see, these are by and large current based. So if you have to focus on IR, focus more from a current affairs perspective. However, India's foreign policy, you need to know everything since our independence till date. What was our foreign policy? What are the different milestones, and why we have adopted these changes over a period of time? Now, this is a question on places in news. Ukraine-Russia war. They asked about the land border with countries which share land border with Ukraine. This actually comes under geography, but it is relevant. Places in news, Ukraine was in news, so this was a question that was asked. So by and large, these are the questions that are asked on IR. IR, because of the weightage, if you properly strategize and study, don't read it in a day. You can't read IGOs in a day. Take an IGO for a day. Every day, one IGO, spend half an hour, try to collect information and start revising. It becomes very easy. Over to you, Chaman, the last part, environment.
So thank you, Deepika ma'am. That was very insightful. And I would ask like Dinesh sir, because he's our geography faculty, so he'll be taking up the environment section. Over to you, Dinesh sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Chaman, sir. Environment is like a child subject for geography. Having geography knowledge is mandatory to learn about environment because the questions were so. In general, it may not link directly to geography, but in UPSC point of view, we have application-based questions on climate and maybe on biogeography. I'll tell you why. Look at one simple aspect. The biodiversity questions, the last 15 years, look at the number of questions, 41 questions. Compare it with terms in use or compare it with forest laws, compare it with any other ecosystem. But biodiversity having more aspects or more probability of questions. So biodiversity is directly linked with geography. So we have to have a little bit of geography knowledge for this. Now, the syllabus here, the general issues of environment, ecology, biodiversity, climate change. Right? So we have various aspects, environmental, ecology, biodiversity. And climate change, we get more of current affairs. And biodiversity also, we get maximum of current affairs. And ecology and environment, we get static topics more. And NCRT, the differences as we say, NCRT class 12 biology, we have only one unit here. Frankly to say, NCRT may not be the best source available in the market for environment. We have to go with private publications and we have to go with NIOS publications and also if any state book for that matter. But I prefer for mains, particularly environment and ecology, Margin book is very good. Similarly, for prelims, we have so many publications, and one such book is Shankara's book is also very good for environment. And along with that, Hindu, Indian Express, down to earth, current affairs compilations of your own perspective should be there for environment perfectly. And if you look at the trend, as I said, you biodiversity having majority of the questions and protected areas, yes, we have questions on protected areas. It is quite increasing every day, every year. And convection organizations, yes, this is where we get one of the most questions are from current affairs, wherever India has a treaty or throughout the world, any climate organizations or any laws and policies. This is also having same. Here we get more questions about Indian laws. Here we get more questions about international laws. So because of laws or maybe in and around laws and organizations, we get around 46 questions. 46 questions in the last, say, 15 years and 40 questions from biodiversity. So now you can expect where you have to concentrate more. Climate change. From 2015, we are getting more current affairs questions on climate change because of Paris conference, And similarly with pollution. And sources of energy is also good weightage. Agriculture, for agriculture questions, you should definitely have geography knowledge, without which is a very difficult thing. And terms in use. Now going with for some of the questions from environment, which is like we get more questions of mentioned in news. You get these type of questions in environment. Some cases in economy, but majority in environment you get this. Why is plant called Propolis and Julifornia often mentioned in news? Because this was one of the most common plant in India, which is like throne plant, where you have thrones, small thrones. This particular plant is occupying the entire ecosystem in India. Wherever you go between arid areas, from say from cities to city where there is no agriculture, this particular Juliflora plant will be there. I think you might have seen this particular plant. It looks similar like the any other citrus plant. Extract is widely used in cosmetics. Yes, this is correct though, but it tends to reduce the biodiversity in the area where it grows. Yes, so this is the reason. This is the main reason. The whole biodiversity in the particular area will be reduced. People often use this in many of the other applications. This may not be the correct answer. But look at the B option. This is the biggest problem as this is an invasive species. This was in South America. It has come to India. From ages together, it has occupied majority of the arid lands of India. The problem is it takes majority of the water. The groundwater is depleted because of this particular plan. So in Punjab and Haryana, state governments have eliminated this particular plan. As this is in current affairs, we got in UPSC. And look at it. There are so many static topics, but whenever the static topic gets a drastic update, UPSC will definitely point out that question. So that is also a favorite topic for UPSC. We know that CNG, what are the uses of CNG? From past 10 years, we are having questions of, like, before 10 years, 15 years, we have questions on CNG. But when there is an upgradation, that is like HCNG, this particular type of questions is where you expect. For example, this HCNG, hydrogen enriched CNG, like we have ethanol blended petrol. Similarly, we have hydrogen enriched CNG, which is used. There are multiple uses because it reduces 70% of the carbon content, elimination. But look at the main advantage of the use of HCNG is elimination of carbon monoxide emissions. Carbon monoxide is reduced, carbon dioxide is reduced, not completely elimination. Not complete elimination, 70% is reduced. Look at the word elimination. Elimination is obviously 100%. So we should not go for this option. HCNG as a fuel reduces carbon dioxide and hydrocarbon emissions. Yes, it reduces. As I said, the key words also plays very important role. We go with the trend. Okay, this particular option is about reducing carbon monoxide. Now, okay, obviously hydrogen means carbon content will be less, so obviously we go with that. No, hydrogen is up to 1/5 by volume and can be blended with CNG as fuel for buses. Yes, as we have E20 for ethanol blending, we have HCNG for hydrogen blending. HCNG makes the fuel less expensive than CNG. No, I think you might have asked any of the auto wallahs. 1 kg of CNG gas is about 45 rupees. HCNG gas, which was recently introduced, no, that was 46 rupees. So even you might have traveled in auto, you might have definitely eliminated this question. Uh, there is no much change here, particularly. Next question, if you look at carefully, national parks. This is also one question. Imagine this is a mandatory question, either national park or biosphere reserve or maybe wildlife sanctuary. Of course, wildlife sanctuaries will be much more. There are more number of sanctuaries, but you have to remember all the 100 national parks or maybe minimum to minimum 150 to 200 wildlife sanctuaries. You have to remember. There is no other option. You have to remember. Don't just depend on current affairs. Current affairs, maybe every year 10 to 15 national parks and wildlife sanctuaries will be there, but we don't know. We have to remember all these, say, 250 different locations are there regarding national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. You have to remember because they are protecting our biodiversity, right? So this is one question. We have translocated lines, some of the lines. So it is to the south of Delhi. We have Konapalpu Wildlife Sanctuary near like Madhya Pradesh. So that is a place we have set on the right. So we obviously have a proposal to relocate. Again, geography blend questions. This is where you get some of the questions where you should have geography knowledge. So advantages of fertigation. This was directly asked in Hindu newspaper. Fertigation, instead of spraying the fertilizers on the particular land, why can't we mix fertilizer in the water and just apply the same water as drip irrigation? So you can save water and also save particular NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. So this was in Hindu newspaper. This is a case study in Sunday's newspaper. Generally, in Sunday we neglect the Hindu newspaper because we won't have science and technology aspects or editorial aspects. But there is a full page article about this fertigation in Hindu newspaper. So controlling the alkalinity of irrigation water is possible. This is yes. And efficient application of rock phosphate and all other phosphatic fertilizers is possible. No, because rock phosphate will not mix in water. It is not water soluble. You should have a little bit of chemistry knowledge also to solve this question. Increased availability of nutrients, yes, this is correct. And reduction in the leaching of chemical nutrients is possible. So in Punjab and Haryana, it was started to implement because there is more NPK or nitrogen phosphorus is used in those states are also in UP. So they have went with this fertigation, right? So this is one such question. So eliminating two, we get our answer. Similarly, this is a question which is a very static question, but you need your judgment skills to solve this question. Butterfly, fish, frog. We might have all seen them. How many of the above have poisonous species among them? You may feel like butterflies, we play with butterflies, or maybe we like butterflies. They are surrounding us. How can they be poisonous? But my question to you is, have you seen all the butterflies in the world? Or have you touched all the butterflies in the world? No, it's not possible. So this is like how many of the above species have poisonous species in them. So imagine this is the number of species of butterflies. We know only like 10% of the species. We don't know what are the species that are there in Amazon forest or maybe in any of the forests. We don't know. So we can directly say no. Just because we know some species, we should not say no. Same with fish. Fish, we know puffer fish, for example, they're poisonous fishes. Similarly, frogs. Fish and frogs, you might go with that. You may not directly go with only two. But again, apply the logic. You have to use judgment skills to say that yes, at least one butterfly species in the whole world might be poisonous. There is a possibility, right? So that is how we have to eliminate the options. And similarly, international bodies and conventions and treaties. This is where UPSC is very interesting. Every year, whatever the conference of party happens in the before year, or whatever the convention on biological diversity happens in the before year, or maybe whatever UN conventions, or UNCCD conventions, UNFCCC conventions, climate change conventions. So regarding UN, regarding conference of parties, or regarding these particular aspects, UPSC's favorite topics, like we have fundamental rights in polity. This is like fundamental rights in environment. So obviously UNFCCC Secretariat. So this is question. These are some questions we should never forget. So over to you, Chaman sir.
Okay. Thank you, Dinesh sir. Thank you all the faculties. So we have come to end of our discussion today. We have discussed all the 8 different subjects out there and what are their weightage and what sort of different type of questions were asked, the level of difficulty of questions, whether the questions were current affairs based or the static, the applied, all the things we have discussed and have concluded in this session. We tried our best to show you the exact picture what the UPSC prelims trends have been, what UPSC has been asking you, or what it intends to ask you, and concluding remarks from Deepika ma'am, respected Deepika ma'am.
I hope the purpose of doing this session is served. Students get an idea as to how the trend has been. Actually, there is no trend. It is all, it goes in all directions. So basically, if I have to put it in one word, UPSC is unpredictable. A student is expected to read everything and in a comprehensive manner, taking note of each detail. You cannot superficially read to crack prelims. Having said that, preparing from mains to prelims guarantees you greater success than preparing only for prelims. So this would be my closing take. Tiwari ji?
Yeah, ma'am, completely agree with you. And I think if any aspirant, any serious aspirant will watch the complete video, or if see what the trend analysis of polity you have done, or what the other educators have tried, we talk from the basis of our experiences. That's the first thing. Secondly, we have seen it from several years that these are the topics, this is the way how it is done. When I talk from an aspirant's perspective, ma'am, still today I see aspirants who are preparing from 2 years, 3 years, they've given the exam, and still today they will ask, ma'am, that if I have to prepare history, should I read the NCRTs or not? What are the topics should I consider? While you're talking about international relation, ma'am, the biggest question that the student asks is, what are the sources for international relation, from where I should study the international relation? So these are the some of the basic things which clarity the aspirant should have before beginning the journey. And that clarity, I think, they can have watching this video. Or ma'am, you have said that we should not be promoting, but again, mentorship is very important. I say that there is a particular statement that I use, that from an aspirant to an administrative officer, it can take you 4 years, 5 years, 7 years, just to understand these small nitty gritties. How much we try, ma'am, it's not possible for any of us to answer all the questions, and it can be only done when you have a particular mentor over there. I think Dinesh sir, Chaman sir, Rani ma'am, everyone will agree with this. So whether we want to promote it or don't want to promote it, the reality is that, ma'am. And I'll just pass it on to you. What do you have to say with that?
Yeah, I do agree. Mentorship is important because there should be somebody to hold your hand and make you walk, tell you where you're going wrong, share your burdens with you. Because I believe that role of teacher is not just to teach and to give the subject. It is not it goes beyond imparting knowledge. They should also be there as a backup. So you need to have us as a backup for any stress that you have in life. You should be able to come back and discuss, because UPSC requires a conducive environment. A person who is under pressure can never perform well in competitive exams, and how to handle stresses in your personal life is equally important. It plays a role in your performance. Anyways, that is from our end for today. We will again see you all again with the
For the
mains
mains
analysis
analysis,
of the
ma'am.
week. Yeah.
Mains analysis is something, students, be prepared. Subscribe to the channel. That's important. Otherwise, you will not get the notification. And before we go, just a brief closing comments from Dinesh sir and Chaman sir and Rani ma'am, and we'll close it.
Uh, I request to the students, mentorship is something that is very, very important. For example, take our institute. We have 7 faculties who has a minimum of 10 to 15 years of experience, which is like 80 years of experience that we give to the students. So that is very much important. How many years if you study, you get that experience as a mentorship. So take anywhere in India, without mentorship, at least I'm not talking about the complete coaching, but mentorship is order of the day, and you should have a mentor where he shares his experiences, where he failed or where he passed. That is very, very important.
Thank you,
Yes,
Dinesh sir.
exactly, sir.
Yes,
And
Rani ma'am.
yes, sir, along with that, I would give again the importance to previous year questions, because mentoring is another thing. But when the student goes back to his room, he or she has to deal with the challenges, deal with the question himself, herself. And in that time, PYQ plays a very important guidance for the students when it comes to selecting the most important topics, be it polity, history, geography, environment. So PYQ will be guiding you along with us, the mentors.
Thank you, Rani ma'am. And we'll close with the comments of Chaman sir. Chaman sir, please.
Okay. So in conclusion of all this analysis that we have done for you, like one thing I can surely say you that the superficial or shallow knowledge and shallow clarity of the concepts will not let you to pass the prelims examination. Gone are those days, the 10, 12, 15 years back, then you had just read it for 2 or 3 months and you have gone through all these magazines and you clear prelims. Gone are those days. The competition is becoming fiercer day by day, and more number of candidates are giving the exam. More number of resources are there in the hands of aspirants, even with the induction of artificial intelligence also. But still, we are seeing that cutoff is decreasing year by year. So more number of aspirants, more number of resources, and still the cutoff is going down. That means that UPSC is demanding thorough and deep understanding of the concepts. And taking a cue from what Deepika ma'am has just said, that mains preparation first will give you that depth in the knowledge. And it will also help you to actively recall what you have learned. Because once you write things in the mains preparation and you're able to actively recall that things in the prelims examination, and you get the conceptual clarity, you interlink the topics. The interlinking becomes easy when one is thorough with the main syllabus. So that's all from me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. So we'll wrap
Thank
it up.
you.